Welcome to Fun Moments in Sports, a look at some of the unusual, controversial, and humorous moments in a world of great plays and great players.
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Uecker, along with Howard David, inviting you to join us for some of the fun moments in sports. Great clips. I'm not in any of them. You should really enjoy it.
Almost went into the net. May had to hold on to it as it just bounced off the side of the goal. And now a pushing match behind the goal, and Rick Wilson gets in there and tries to throw a few punches. And Wilson has dropped his right glove and threw some punches.
2 minutes for roughing. Everything up on the clock. 5 to your man, 2 minutes to their man. He suckered him with he hit him with a punch.
Man, how many teams? You see a blue or colorblind out here?
I've explained it to you.
Colorblind, check out the penalties.
Let's go.
Rick Wilson gets 5 for fighting.
Great place to spend a weekend. 1st and 10 for William and Mary at the 46.
Got a flag down.
Michael Clemens running with a football, still on his feet. 45, running to the far side. An official falls in front of him at the 40-yard line. Had Clemens, could he have jumped the official? He feels that he can flex more power into the ball from that standpoint. And your respect to the lineup that you liked last night, that was with Benitez at 3rd, right? That's what you like?
As soon as that in. In the American League, we'll take a look at the scoreboard. As you've already seen some of the action in the American League. Texas at Boston. Texas leads Boston now 3-2.
Curveball, hammered foul. When in doubt, wait till it stops rolling and she kicks it. It's a goal. Little slippery tonight. 1-0. In the corner.
Corner kick.
That fits right in.
If it had been all black, we'd have just had to all go home.
Trying to find a way to get out of here. Whoop. A little too slick.
He can get out there. Oh, looked like he saw Elrod Hendricks out there and changed his mind.
Now the grounds crew is chasing him.
He's going to come in to hit.
Probably a Detroit Tigers scout.
Got a lot of pseudo moves.
Gonna run out of gas pretty soon. What else could happen?
We'll be watching next year for sure to see how all of these young players coming out. We got another call on the line. Go ahead, you're on the line.
Yeah, Phil, I used to really admire you when you played for the Bullets. I thought you was a wonderful player, but I'm wondering about that tie. That's the ugliest looking tie I've ever seen. I mean, what did they make a kilt out of the rest of that tie? Are you Scottish or what? What kind of tie is that?
This is the tie right here. Nobody else can see anything else. This is a red tie, red bow tie with a straight line down. Who could that be calling about? We're talking sports here.
I don't know, Phil. What about the Bullets? What do you think their playoff chances are?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I'll turn that over to Jeff Hardy.
Jeff, what do you think?
Well, it looks more and more like
they even have a tie.
They're probably going to play
Jeff,
Phil.
why don't you get a tie like the one Phil's got? You know, your sports writers go around almost naked all the time. You're so casual. That'll be some kind of dress code for you guys. What's the deal? I mean, you're working class just like the rest of us. Get a coat and tie on for crying out loud, will you? Okay, that's all I have to say. Goodbye.
Well, I don't know about that, caller. What do you think? But while we're on the subject, you know, the playoffs are coming up. What do you look forward to seeing? Pay them no mind, Jeff.
I'm definitely stunned on that one. I've always thought I was a decent dresser.
As
As you can tell by the opening montage of this program, the show deals entirely with those fun moments in sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Howard David in Mizzlou Network Control in New York. Standing by in Milwaukee is Bob Uecker. And, Bob, there are those that say that your career was indeed a fun moment in sports.
Well, that may be totally true, Howard, but, you know, I go back a long way in baseball, and I've always thought that anybody can play the game of baseball, but for a guy like myself to stick around for as long as I did is a much greater tribute to a player than these guys that hit their 300s every year. It's a little embarrassing to my family, but so what?
And now it's time for Bob's Ski Tournament.
Racing drivers are a different sort of individual, and Bob Uecker, Phil Parsons, spends his Sunday afternoons driving a whole lot different than you and I do.
All right, Howard, and automobile racing, a thrill a minute. Ken Squires is with Phil Parsons, one of the new and up-and-coming drivers, for his fun moment in sports.
Well, Bob, I think the first thing we should do is to point out that in the vernacular of the racing trade, this ain't no fun. Right, Phil?
That's for sure, Ken, and it's something I would rather not ever do again.
Well, it may be a few chuckles to look back on as long as he's standing here beside us, and I suppose we should start with that usual disclaimer about how children and neophytes should not attempt to do the stunt that Phil did. The point is that he is here after this incredible piece of footage from the May 1st, 1983 Talladega 500. Battling for sixth position at 200 miles per hour, he zooms down into the first turn. He just barely gets in contact with the Darrell Waltrip car, and then this. This series of incredible sidewinders, sometimes 20, 30 feet in the air, side over side, some say 9, some say a dozen times. And then when the car finally came to a halt, midway through the first and second corner, he was rammed by another car, Ricky Rudd. And one day later, except for a broken clavicle, you were in pretty good shape.
Not too bad, Ken. I was pretty sore, but basically okay.
That car, incidentally, is now in the museum at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. I've seen it, and it is a great testimony to how safe these cars are. 2 or 3 days later, you and I were working together on one of these television shows.
That's true, Ken. My eyes were red and my arm was in a sling, but I was all right other than that.
That's what he calls fun.
Hey, Phil, did you ever think of taking up another sport for a living?
Well, Bob, I've thought about taking up baseball, but after following your career very closely, I think I'll stick to driving a race car.
Well, Bob, that's an interesting way to spend a Sunday afternoon. When we return, we'll take a look at Nolan Ryan's fun and historical moment in the 1983 baseball season.
And now it's time for Bob's Baja 500.
is 3,509. First achieved, Bob Uecker, by the Houston flamethrower Nolan Ryan.
3,509 strikeouts. That's Nolan Ryan. Mike Smith is with Nolan in San Diego Stadium right now.
To borrow a time-worn sports cliche, records are made to be broken. And certainly when an old mark falls, it's a very, very special moment. Earlier this year, Nolan Ryan set the all-time strikeout record, nailing Brad Mills of Montreal. It was a moment of jubilation, but for Ryan, it was also a kind of sigh of relief.
Well, it was just a relief that it was over with because it had been a build-up and there'd been some frustration that I experienced with the two previous outings and the media attention that I was getting, and it was just it was a relief to get it over with, and it's something that I always wanted to accomplish. I knew that that record was going to fall, and I really wanted to be the guy that broke it.
What'd you get him with?
I got him with a curveball.
You mentioned the media attention. I know Roger Maris went through it the year that he hit 61 home runs. Hank Aaron experienced it. Was it the same type of thing for you?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think it was near the magnitude that those guys went through, and it wasn't a big build-up. It was early in the year, and I'd just come off the disabled list, and so people kind of had put it out of their mind. And also, it wasn't didn't seem to be a big event as those two fellows accomplished.
Nolan, looking back at the strikeout record and bouncing back and forth between two leagues, learning new hitters, did that have any effect on you or not?
Well, it certainly affected me the first year I was in the National League because it took me the entire year to learn the hitters and get comfortable with the umpires and their strike zones, and it's just an adjustment period. But I don't think that pitching in American League versus National League as a strikeout pitcher or any other type of pitcher, there's really any difference.
You mentioned the two leagues, the strike zone. We hear about that all the time. How much of a difference is there really? Is it something that you notice as a pitcher?
I noticed that the National League has a smaller strike zone. I think that the American League gives the high strike, and the National League doesn't give a lower strike than the American League. So I think it causes the pitchers to have to pitch to a smaller strike zone.
You've been consistently in double figures in the win column. ERA ranks in the top 30 of all time. Back early in your career, there were those that said that you were just a thrower. Is this kind of a good way of saying, hey, you were wrong?
There's more to being a complete pitcher than just your one-loss record. I look at myself as a defensive specialist. My job is to go out and try to shut the opponents out, and whether I win or lose is basically out of my hands from the standpoint of our team's offensive output. So I don't put much emphasis on my one-loss record. I feel like I'm a complete pitcher.
Nolan, being from Texas, has pitching in Houston, Texas helped your career at all?
Well, the community has supported our team well, and they've accepted me well, which has made the transition much easier. I think pitching at home has made it easier on me at this point and stage of my career. My family involvement and other involvements that I have outside the game has made it easier by playing in Houston.
This year you've seesawed back and forth now with Steve Carlton. Does that push you a little bit harder?
Well, I don't really watch what Steve's doing because that's out of my hands. I feel like that I have to concern myself with my situation and our ball club and try to help our ball club and do everything I can for us to win, and hope that I pitch long enough that I get an opportunity to be the all-time strikeout leader.
Hey, Nolan, had I been 35-09, what kind of pitch would you have thrown me?
Well, Bob, I'd have walked to the plate and told you what was coming and been a fastball.
Hey, Nolan, the laugh's on you. 200 guys did that before you ever thought about it. Hey, fans, stay tuned for more. The Stanford Band against the California Bears, Part 2, coming up next.
And now it's time for Bob's Boxing Tour, joined in progress.
Back to fun moments in sports, and probably one of the more unusual fun moments in sports occurred November 20th, 1982, Bob Uecker, a day that the California and Stanford football teams will never forget.
All right, Howard, Randy Roth took a film crew out to Stanford's opening band practice for their version of the big play. Cal 25, Stanford 20. Remember?
Bob, I'm here with the incomparable Stanford Marching Band. And they're all keyed up for the 1983 football season, and we're going to roll some memories past them, and we want to get some reaction of the 1982 big play against Stanford in the big game.
The ball is still loose as they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's got it in the end zone. He's got it in the end zone. Will it count? The Bears have scored, but the bands are out on the field. There were flags all over the place. Everybody's milling around on the field. And the Bears have won. The Bears have won. Oh, my God. The most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heartrending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football.
I was on the 17-yard line. I was deceived along with the rest of the band members. I saw the football team go on the field, and I went out there to congratulate them on their victory until this man in a blue jersey started running at me. I was going to run to make a tackle at him, but a Stanford player got in my way, so I couldn't get at him, and he ran by into the end zone where we all thought he was making a futile effort at getting a touchdown after having lost the game. Unfortunately, the officials thought otherwise and kind of changed history on us, left us all a little disappointed.
Any major injuries with any of the band members? I know the trombone player's not with us today, but any other major injuries, other people getting knocked over?
Well, yeah, Gary, the trombone player, he got out of his wheelchair within a couple short months after the occasion, and everyone else was pretty good. A few bruised spirits, but this year actually we're planning on a little bit of revenge.
So much for the Stanford band's version of the big play. Cal play-by-play man Joe Starkey has another version. He's with KGO Radio. Joe?
Certainly, our reaction up in the broadcast booth was you're just going through the motions with 4 seconds to play. You're looking perhaps to get out of bounds and try something desperate. You don't figure to get the long run back. You know Stanford is obviously going to be very aware of that and try to kick the ball in such a way that you can't get the long run back. But what happened was it was kind of a bouncing kick. It came to Kevin Moan fairly far upfield in his own end of the field, 25, 30-yard line. But on the sideline, Richard Rogers had told his teammates, and Rogers, without a doubt, the real team leader on defense for this Golden Bear team last year and again this year, said the ball will not fall. Those are his exact words in that situation. If it looks like you're going to be tackled, do something with it. Throw it up for grabs, lateral it, do anything.
I got everybody in the huddle and I looked at all the players around and I said, listen, if you guys get in trouble, pitch the ball back if you're going to get tackled. So everything went as planned, I guess.
Rogers, as he started to get caught, gave it to Dwight Garner. Garner was the most controversial man on the play without any doubt because it appeared that 4 or 5 Stanford players had tackled him and that his knee was already on the ground as he released the ball for another lateral. You look at the film over and over again, you really can't be sure. That is the one area where it's a questionable judgment. It could have gone either way. Well, as everybody knows by now, it did count. The most remarkable win, certainly in Cal football history, maybe the most exciting and dramatic college football play in the history of the game. A very special moment for me, and just a great thrill to be part of it.
Joe Starkey was fired up, wasn't he, Howard? Well, Cal won the football game and the trombone, and also the doctor who removed it.
November 19th of this year is the rematch between California and Stanford. Could be another earthquake. This is George Brett. He promises that in our next segment, you'll hear the words pine tar for the last time.
And now it's Bob's Bicycle Tournament.
This baseball season, 1983, George Brett, in the words pine tar, dominated the sports pages, Bob.
The biggest joke to come along since I signed my first professional contract, Howard. Hey, Steve, when it comes to a fun moment in the wacky world of sports, all one has to do is look to Yankee Stadium and the New York Yankees. Rest easy, babe. Earlier this summer, the Kansas City Royals and George Brett arrived at the stadium for a routine 3-game series that we all know developed into the baseball rhubarb of the decade. Obviously, I'm talking about the George Brett pine tar incident. 5 things we know for sure. George Brett has pine trees tapped in his front yard. He hit a home run. American League President Lee McPhail ruled against the Yankees. A court ruling forced the game to its conclusion, and the Royals finally got the decision. What most of the viewers don't know is, what the heck is pine tar? Steve Grad, can you help us?
Well, one of the most unusual and I would guess most fun for some people moments of baseball this year was when the words pine tar became part of the baseball language, and the man involved in pine tar and the famous episode is Royal star third baseman George Brett. What is pine tar?
Well, pine tar comes in a can like this. I don't know if this is the brand that the Kansas City Royals use, but a lot of people have been sending me different brands of pine tar. Pine tar is used by farmers, by horseshoers, by nurserymen, soap manufacturers, and various industries. And baseball players use it mainly to put on their bat to give them a little sticky substance, because a lot of times when you go up there and you play in weather like we have in Kansas City or play anywhere, it's to get a good grip on the bat. And what you do is you put a little of this pine tar on a rag similar to this, and then when the pine tar's on the rag, you might put a little bit up here, and then when you're on the on-deck circle or you're going up the bat, you get a little substance on your hand, and then you put your hands down here on the bat. Well, in my case, on the 24th of June, I believe. July 24th. My pine tar was about up to here, I guess, and that was a little bit too far. And at one at bat, I happened to hit a home run off Rich Gossage, and all of a sudden, for about a month, that's all I talked about. And I thought it was over with until Steve Grad came up to me and said, "Hey, we're going to do a little thing with your pine tar thing." And I said, "Well, if this is the last thing I'll ever have to do, I'll be very happy. So hopefully, after today, it'll be closed."
Well, I was going to say, how far would your career have been without pine tar?
Well, I would have to say I would still be playing in the major leagues. I probably wouldn't be sitting out here in 100-degree weather right now, but there's other substances. Manny Mota, for instance, sent me, Manny Mota's a batting coach for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He sent me a substance very similar to pine tar. It's a clear, sticky substance, and it comes in like a stick, and you rub it up and down on your bat. When we went over to Japan in 1981, the Kansas City Royals went over there to play 17 exhibition games. They didn't have pine tar over there. We used some type of a spray, a tough skin spray. So there's a lot of different substances you can use. A lot of players just use gloves, but I don't like the feel of gloves on the bat. I like to feel my raw hand on the bat. And without pine tar, there'd be something else that someone would have invented and I would have been using all this time.
I wish we had smell-o-vision, because this is a very...
It does smell good. I love the smell of it, too.
I feel like you're in the middle of a Pacific Northwest forest.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to maybe market these?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
The George Brett autograph mark.
Yeah. Now what they'll do sometimes when they open this thing looks like chocolate syrup kind of. And what they do is they just get a little, can opener, and they just pour it on there. And then when it gets on there, the bat boys kind of rub it in there real good, and they'll get it in there where it's, well, as you can see, as it soaks the whole rag. And this is a Major League pine tar rag. That's a great one.
Every kid in the United States who sees this is going to have to get batting glove, a mitt, baseball shoes, a bat, and now
pine tar.
Pine tar.
Pine tar.
So some guys haven't had good luck with that pine tar on the bat.
Well, I think when you first start out using pine tar, you got to know how much you want to put on the bat. I let Bob Uecker use one of my bats in batting practice in Milwaukee, and he went up there and he started putting pine tar on. I said, "Bob, not too much. You're going to put too much on." Well, this is what happened when Bob Uecker used my bat. As you can see, he got jammed a little bit and the ball stuck to the pine tar.
Well, thanks a lot, big guy, and to you too, Steve Grad. Hey, George, thanks again. I really appreciate that. I always thought that stuff was aftershave lotion. No wonder nobody liked me. Anyway, Howard, it's been great being with you too, and these have been some fun moments in sports.
Well, Bob, it's too bad that this program was created after your career was over. It's been a fast and in many cases humorous 30-minute program. For the professional athlete, it's a business, but it's also a lot of fun. For the amateurs, it's pure pleasure. For Bob Uecker, I'm Howard David. We hope you enjoyed our fun moments in sports.